Good evening, folks. We're going to go ahead and get started here tonight. My name is Mike Beam. I'm the Director of Planning and Engineering here for the department. Thanks for coming out tonight and helping to make better lives for better transportation. That's our vision in South Dakota DOT. And we truly believe it. You have a lot of passionate DOTers here that really care about transportation and how transportation works. So we like to play this game every once in a while. So can anyone name anything in this room, besides yourselves, that wasn't brought by truck? John? No? Something in this room, not yourself, that wasn't brought by a truck. We have highway maps for prizes. There's really nothing, right? As we are so connected to our transportation system, and the transportation system is so vital to our everyday life. We take it for granted. And the transportation system we love today and we enjoy, it allows us to get the grain from the field. It allows us to make that purchase online, get that delivery 2 days later. And it really is just our lifestyle. We expect it. It's something that we expect every day, like the water, turn it on when you turn on the water, or the light to come on when you hit the switch. Our transportation system is critical. And this team that we have here at DOT and folks here in the room today, I guarantee you're passionate about transportation too. And I'm glad you're here today to help guide that future investment. So before we get started, I just wanted to make a few quick introductions. We have a few of our commissioners here with us tonight. First of which is our chairman, Bruce Cull. Bruce, thank you. And Mike Valley. Mike, thanks for coming tonight. Bruce, I think they're clapping for you too. Okay. Yep, it was for you too, Bruce. And also joining us on Zoom tonight, we have Senator Hunhoff. Senator, thanks for joining us on Zoom tonight. Hopefully the picture comes in all right. And I know I've gained a little weight, but you can tell me that later this year. Senator Hunhoff and I have a great relationship. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about what our intent is here tonight. Sure. A little hard. There you go. I won't sing for you though. But we're going to go through a brief presentation here tonight, talk a little bit about transportation, what we focus on in the DOT and our investment strategies. We're going to hear from Jay Peppel, who's going to actually share with some of the projects we have planned in the next 4 years in the region. After that, we're going to open up for public comment and testimony. For those of you that came in tonight, you should have received a handout, and on that handout is a list of projects. So you can go ahead and look through there if you'd like to as we're doing the presentation. There's also an input form as well. You can fill those out, paper and pen. There's an email address. And of course, we'll be taking testimony here tonight. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And really, as you think about a transportation system or any physical asset, there's definitely things that you need to have in order to make a system or an asset work. And one of those things that we need to have, of course, is financing or funding. And as we get this rolling up here on the screen, one of the major sources of our funding in South Dakota DOT is our federal aid. For those of you that are aware, the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, which is the federal bill, was passed here in November. What that bill has provided us is a solid source of funding for the next 5 years. And as we look at transportation and transportation planning, development of projects takes a long time. The thought or a concept of a project coming to fruition can take 4 to 8 years. There's development, there's design, there's coordination, there's right-of-way acquisition, environmental, several steps that have to be met in order to meet that time frame. So again, the implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or the IIJA, it's got two names, has provided us that solid funding for the next 5 years. What you see on the screen is $350 billion investment nationally, $350 billion investment nationally into transportation. For South Dakota's portion of it, we receive about $380 million of federal aid. That federal aid is vitally important to us. About 75% of our construction program comes from federal dollars. The remaining funds that we use to help build and maintain transportation systems in South Dakota are state funds. And those state funds come from your fuel tax and your excise tax when you go ahead and purchase a vehicle and register it. Combining those two sources, we look at an investment program of about $500 million to $600 million every year. A huge investment in transportation in South Dakota. Where do we focus and what are our main focus points as we look at that investment, that opportunity to build better lives for better transportation? Our number one thing we're focusing on is safety. The graph up in front of you that you can see right now is a history of our serious crashes that we've seen in South Dakota, along with our fatal crashes. The graph on the very top is our serious injury crashes. We've seen a very good, steady downward trend in our serious injury crashes since 2008. We made better lives, hopefully through better transportation, help improve safety on highway systems, and hopefully our vehicles have helped to make us safer as well and get us home safe every day. The bottom line is our fatal crashes. And although it hasn't trended downward near as much as our serious injury crashes, in 2019, we had 102 fatal crashes. That's 102 too many. But it was still one of the lowest on record. In 2020 and 2021, we saw an increase in our fatal crashes. Speeding, alcohol, and other behavioral elements caused a lot of those issues that we saw and a lot of the fatal crashes that came across in South Dakota. I can tell you right now, so far in 2022, we're about 30% down from where we were last year. So we are seeing a decrease again coming into this year, which is good. Just last week, there were about 3 fatal crash notifications that came across my desk. And I subscribe to the email. So I get the email every time a fatal crash, and DPS notifies us of a fatal crash. Cross center line crashes, significant issue that we saw. Individual driving inadvertently going across the center line and crashing into somebody else that was doing nothing wrong other than trying to get to their destination. So as we look at safety and we look at behavior, some of the things that we're trying to do from a department standpoint is focus on aspects such as rumble strips, things that aren't necessarily a transportation infrastructure element. They're not a bridge, they're not a pavement, but they're things that we're putting into the pavement or into the system to help with those behavior aspects. So if an individual is going across center line, they're given that warning that, hey, you're crossing center line, get back in your lane. The numbers we've seen from the installations of the center line rumble strips have reduced cross center line crashes, head-on collisions by 62%. Great numbers. Side swipes by 47%. In the upper right-hand corner, you see a picture of something called a high friction surface treatment. You know, we've got 2 seasons in South Dakota. We've got construction season and we have winter. And when winter comes, we get icy and snowy conditions. Our high friction surface treatments are a specific treatment in a specific area. Lower right-hand corner kind of shows you what happens. An epoxy or glue goes down on top of the pavement. Then a very hard abrasive aggregate goes on top of it. For the installations where we put in our high friction surface treatment, we've seen an 80% reduction in those crashes at those locations. It's a very expensive technique, but it works very well. A great opportunity again for us to help build better lives for better transportation and get everyone home safe every day. The lower left-hand corner, I guarantee everybody's felt one of these. That's a shoulder rumble strip. And with our shoulder rumble strip installations, we've seen a 20% reduction in those fatal crashes just due to the shoulder rumble strips, pre-installation to post-installation. Now, 20% may not seem like much, but our #1 fatal crash in South Dakota is a single vehicle runoff roadway. So if we can reduce that by 20%, we're helping to bring people home safe and healthy every day. Again, as we look at innovations and look at ways for us to make better lives through better transportation, focusing on new ways to deliver products and get people home safe is really what we're trying to focus on. If we have a safe system, it's wonderful, right? Everybody wants to have a safe system, but we also want a reliable system. In my household, we measure distance and time. We live in Pierre, so if you live in Pierre in the central part of the state, you usually travel quite a bit. Whether it's to Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Brookings, you name it, we've probably been there as a family. Every time we get on the road, it's not really a question of how far is it, it's how long is it. And for the most part, it's pretty darn close, pending bathroom breaks or how much water we brought into the car with us. But we can measure distance really in time. For Rapid City, from our doorstep to usually the city limits of Rapid City, it's going to be around 2.5 hours. And we can plan on that, 2.5 hours, 2:45. Depends on bathroom breaks again. But that's a reliable transportation system. Now, I guarantee most of you came here tonight, you said, okay, how far is it to my destination? And you probably measured that in time, not in distance. That's because our transportation system is reliable. You get from point A, you go into point B, you know it should only take you this long to get there, and it generally works that way. The middle part of the screen, what you see is our Safe Travel app. And if you are not using our 511 app, I highly suggest you get it. Reliable transportation means that we have informed customers that are using our transportation system. It allows customers to go take a look at the road conditions, construction projects. And for those of you that came up today, you probably ran into some construction projects. Hopefully you look at the 511 app before you left and you planned your trip. And you knew it was going to take you 2 hours instead of an hour and 35 minutes to get there. But again, a great tool for us to make sure that we have that reliable transportation system. The upper right-hand corner is our dynamic message boards. You've seen those, our Think Thursday signs. You'll see that Think Thursday message that goes up, helping to, again, reinforce good driving behavior. Another opportunity for us to be able to inform our travelers and people that use our system about what's coming up, or maybe just remind them that good driving behavior is something that we all expect. The upper left-hand corner is a diverging diamond interchange. That's at 41st Street. For those of you that have been to Sioux Falls and maybe tried to make that left turn off I-29 over to the mall or that area, you realize that it can be pretty darn congested. That left turn is definitely an issue for us. A diverging diamond interchange is again, a new technique that allows that movement to happen much more efficiently. Again, getting people to their destination in a reliable time frame. It's also going to help quite a bit with safety impacts. The lower right-hand corner is our La Crosse Street diverging diamond. That will actually be the first one that's in service. Hopefully we'll be up and running here this year on it. Again, looking at new ways to make that reliable transportation system for our customers. So when you're going somewhere, you can expect to get there and have a pretty good reliability to get there when you expect to. Of course, we talk about safety and reliability, they're great, but there's physical assets out there. Now, I love this next slide. It's actually a picture of all the structures in South Dakota. Over 5,700 public structures in South Dakota. You can actually see the tributaries and the creeks by looking at this picture. You can see the Big Sioux River, you can see the Jim River, you can see where they're at just by the number of structures that we have. 5,700 bridges for the population that we have in South Dakota. That's a pretty heavy lift. Our commission has worked tirelessly for a number of years. The implementation of the Senate Bill 1 developed the Bridge Improvement Grant Program, which helped to provide that interconnection, that structure replacements for our local governments. That program has continued to grow over the years. We've also included a federal aid local bridge replacement program. We understand and realize that an interconnected transportation system isn't just a nice thing to have, it's a necessity. It doesn't do you any good, again, to grow the grain in your field if you can't get it to market. So it's that interconnectedness that's important as well. This year, our Transportation Commission provided $33 million for a bridge improvement grant program. Currently, or historically, it's been at about $15 million. They also provided an opportunity for 100% local federal aid bridge program, $6.75 million, almost $40 million worth of local government bridges coming up, hopefully this year. So again, working with our local partners and also working with our counties and cities to ensure that we can help to build and maintain that transportation system into the future has been a focus for us. As we look at bridges, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the state highway system. This graph just shows the age distribution of the bridges in South Dakota on the state system. Very large portion of our bridges are 40 to 70 years old. Coincides pretty well with the build of the interstate era and really the federal aid program that came out. We've done a very good job of maintaining our assets. For a bridge that was supposed to last 50 to 75 years, a lot of those bridges are lasting longer. We're seeing our structures that are in relatively good condition. In fact, 95% of our bridges are in good to fair condition today in South Dakota for the state system, 95%. But we see this wave coming and we know we have to plan for it. The sheer volume of structures that are coming up, needing a replacement, we're needing to move ahead and start getting some of those in earlier rather than later, waiting for that big wave to hit. Again, by focusing on making good transportation decisions and good investment decisions, we can flatten the curve and maintain the great transportation system we have today. We're also focusing on new technologies, better ways to build things. In the upper left-hand corner, what you see is a structure with, we call it riprap, but rock around it. So nothing too exciting for most of us, but for folks who are really excited about engineering, it's kind of neat. We're taking into account further reliability and resilience when it comes to our structures. We had some pretty big rains here in 2019. We had a lot of water come through that caused a lot of damage, especially in this area. Now, as we look at our structures and what are we building for, it's great to build a bridge deck or barrier to last 75 years, but let's make sure that it can also handle those big drainage, those big events, especially on the state system. So we're building resiliency. The upper right-hand corner is a picture of one of our drones. We're using drones and unmanned aerial systems for bridge inspections today. It's provide better quality. We're quicker at getting our jobs completed, and we feel like it's obviously more efficient in order for us to deliver that bridge inspection program. The lower right-hand corner, that's steel on our bridge deck. There's steel in our bridge decks. What we've done is we've shifted from an epoxy steel to actually a stainless steel. And the reason for that, I mentioned earlier, we have construction season in winter. With winter comes chlorides, and with chlorides and water comes rust. We see that, and we've all seen it, and you can look around pretty much in any piece of concrete, and you see something popped out. It's because the steel usually corroded. The use of stainless steel in our bridge decks we anticipate is going to result in a 20% reduction in life cycle costs in our bridges. Again, looking at better ways to deliver that transportation system to our customers. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our pavements. This is a graph of our pavement condition over time. Going back to 2008. The blue indicates pavements in excellent condition, green is good, yellow is fair, and red is poor. As you can see, our target level is to have 80% of our pavement in good to excellent condition. That's our highest return on investment. It's healthy to have some pavement in poor condition. Like I mentioned earlier with the bridges, All assets at some point in time need to be replaced. Same thing with our pavements and our sections of the highway. So some of those pavements are going to be in poor condition. Some are moving from fair to poor, and that's natural progression. But if we can maintain our pavements at 80%, we feel like that's our highest return on investment. And you can see our projections after the passage of the IIJA, we're projecting to be able to maintain that level into the future. So again, we're in a good position from a pavement standpoint, but we're always looking for ways to get better. Enhancements and innovations, as you see up on the screen right now, is intelligent compaction. That's the upper left-hand corner. Thermal imagery, along with roller patterns, help us to ensure that we're getting adequate densities on our asphalt pavements. Upper right-hand corner, that's actually an asphalt wedge joint. Allows us to get a better compaction at the center part of where the two asphalt mats come together. Lower right-hand corner, next generation concrete paving, faster construction, better quality at the end. Looking at new and better ways to build transportation systems into the future. So I went through that fairly quickly, and I appreciate the fact that nobody fell asleep on me, but I do appreciate the fact that everybody was attentive here. We are passionate about transportation. I'm going to turn it over to Jay. Jay will go through some projects upcoming in the area, and then I'll come back up at the end. Jay?
Thanks, Mike. Typically, the region engineer does this. I'm not the region engineer. My name's Jay Peppel. I'm the, oops. Do I have to, oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I don't even know how to run the computer. My name's Jay Peppel. I'm the Mitchell area engineer. And how do you get up here? And Travis couldn't make it tonight. So we did, Harry and Greg and I did paper, rock, scissors, and I'm not very good at that game. So that's why I'm standing up here. So you'll have to put up with me. But what I want to do a little bit is kind of go through some of the projects we have. I want to describe our area a little bit, who we are, and some of the major projects that we have. All of the projects are on the handout that you guys got earlier. But I want to just kind of focus on some of the higher ones and talk just a little bit about those. As far as our boundaries, we represent the Mitchell region represents 22 counties in the southeast part of the state. Chamberlain down to Yankton, down, Sioux Falls area, those types of things. Area wise, there's 3 area offices within the Mitchell region. Sioux Falls area, and that's Harry. We got the Yankton area and Greg, and then myself here in the Mitchell area. There you can see us. I don't know if we're not the most photogenic bunch of the group, but I guess you get what you get about a bunch of engineers. So as far as the projects go, we've got this, we'll talk about projects from 23 to 26. As far as bridge wise, we've got 42 new structures going into that time frame, 106 structure rehabilitations. On the local side, we'll just go through 2024 because that's all they have obligated right now. But there's 19 structure replacements, 5 structure rehabs, and 5 bridge removal structure projects. I'm sorry. On the local system from 25 to 26, there's another $34.5 million for those projects. So those will get obligated in the next couple of years. In 2023 grading wise, you'll note this, if you can see the screen a little bit, this is actually on the DOT's website under the STIP program. Colors represent years, triangles represent something, bridges, paving, others. But I'll just kind of highlight a few of them. When you look at the STIP map, sometimes it'll say 2023, 2024, but construction in 24, 25. What that means is that fiscal year 23, 24, whatever the year is, but the construction might be the following year. So there's just, and in your handout, it'll actually say the construction year on those. So just the difference between when the money was obligated to when the actual construction will be. Oops, I'm sorry. In 23, the grading section, we've got 11 projects programmed at over $300 million. Total length of 47. Some of the highlighted ones, oops, I keep switching, that I would mention is, of course, since I'm the Mitchell area engineer, I can talk about Mitchell projects, right? So we'll talk about the 37 north of town. The first one, it's an urban $23 million urban reconstruction. That's one of those that the money's obligated in 23. So you see it in 23, but it's the construction actually will be in 24, 25. Reconstruction all the way from North Main all the way to National Guard Road. It'll include new bridge, pedestrian walkways, all the way out to National Guard Road. Plus, they're actually kind of excited about this. Been working with the city to get a pedestrian bridge across the spillway. So that's a nice improvement there. So number 41 there is I suppose we better talk a little bit about Sioux Falls. 41 is the first leg of South Veterans Parkway from Western to Cliff. And that's a 6-lane divided section, similar to the rest of the corridor. Same there, it's FY23 programmed for about $67 million. After that, there's 3 consecutive projects after that will tie into that, with the last one in 2026. So multi-year construction on all those. Number 52 and 54 are intersections over by the Sioux Falls area. 52 is I-229 and Benson Road. And number 54 is I-90 at the Brandon exit, at exit 406. So 2023 on the surfacing side, we got 9 projects, $93 million, 154 miles. A lot of surfacing grading in 23-24. One to note is item 19, and which is Highway 42 from 37 to Bridgewater. So for those of you that have drove that stretch, or I should say haven't drove that stretch for a few years because of the bridge, we are going to be putting a surface on that. And just as an update, I just found out today that it's possible we could have that bridge open middle of next week. So pretty encouraged about the Jim River Bridge being open since it's been down for quite a while. Item number 6 is Highway 46. It's a surfacing job east of Wagner. That will go all the way from Wagner to 37, and then also that little portion of 50 towards Avon. So it's a resurfacing project, but actually it's what we call a full depth reclamation. They're actually going to grind it up, fix the shoulders, and do quite a bit more work than just a regular AC overlay. One project that I wanted to mention that's not on your deal is the reconstruction of the westbound lanes from excuse me, from Humboldt to Hartford. That will actually be in 23. It'll look very similar to the projects that they have that's going on right now. It's just the Humboldt to Hartford section. The 2024 grading, we have 6 projects programmed at about $340 million, 11 miles. One, maybe why this one's just a little bit higher there is item 129. It's the Plattwinter Bridge. That's scheduled right now at about $168 to $170 million. That includes the structure, the grading, and all that to that. Letting date on that is fall of 24. We're hoping construction winter 24, 25, 26, 27. It's probably a 3-year project. So quite a significant project. Probably one of the largest ones, or is the largest one ever let in South Dakota. So we're kind of, excited about that. Just for you down there, just to make sure I reiterate this, the bridge will not be closed, hopefully. When I say hopefully, meaning the bridge that's there still maintains. But what we're going to do, the bridge will actually go on the north side of the existing bridge. So the grading and everything, so we'll be building the new bridge right adjacent to the old bridge. And then it'll actually kind of go, the new alignment will actually kind of go right through the game fishing parks area there. So what we're working on right now is all the environmental commitments. We're working through the game fishing parks and all their, and the Corps of Engineers stuff on that. So we're hopeful it's on schedule. So, when it's hard to defer $170 million. So we want to keep that one going. 139 is kind of an interesting project. It actually shows it up there by Salem, but it's actually on the interstate. That is a grade raise project where we're going to raise the grade and improve the drainages over there. For those of you that remember, in 2019, the interstate was closed for a period of time because of flooding. That's that area. So the Bridgewater exit, Salem exit, or west of Salem in that area. So, and 146 is an intersection south of Sioux Falls. It's a new intersection between I-229 and the T intersection. Construction 25-26. 2024 resurfacing, we got 7 projects, about $90 million, about 92 miles. There, item 151 I'd like to talk about. And item 151 is a sister project to the one I just talked about. So Humboldt to Hartford in the eastbound lanes. So That project there would be the fourth of those projects, so would be hopefully be done in that area. But I do want to note that that project alone is $41 million. They have all been, 36 to $41 million projects, so major projects. But we did get a 61.5, and maybe a lot of you know this, a $61.5 million grant for those projects in conjunction. So we are very excited about that. Item 125 is one that's kind of interesting. It's AC overlay, but it's eastbound and westbound from Puckwana to White Lake. So what we'll do there is we'll mill off the existing surface and put a new surface on that. So it's 26 miles, about $16 million. 2025 in the grading section, 11 projects programmed at $268 million, about 43 miles. On that one, number 217 is Highway 50 through Tyndall, 14.5 million, doing some realignments, some intersection improvements there through Tyndall. Grading, curb and gutter, roadway lighting, the whole 9 yards there. 234 is Highway 42 from the Big Sioux River to the Iowa state line, a little over $40 million. Expands the 2-lane to a 4-lane divided with construction in 25-26. Then a couple more intersection projects, 231 and 232. 231 is I-229 and Cliff. And then 232, I'd say I-90 and 387, they're at Hartford. So it'd be the Hartford interchange. 25 surfacing, there's 4 projects currently right now, $68 million, 63 miles. Kind of the addition to the one that I just talked about would be 219, which would be I-90 eastbound and westbound, Chamberlain to Puckwana. So we're just fixing the rest of that all the way to Chamberlain. 12.5 miles, 11 million. 239 would be a good one. South Dakota 46 from Beersford to the Iowa line. It's a 2026 construction to follow the grading project in 24-25. Concrete surfacing, asphalt shoulders, and then that also includes the asphalt overlay and pipe work on South Dakota 11 from 46 to Alcester. About $40 million, 38 actually. 2026 grading, there's 7 projects programmed at about 93 million, 43 miles. Another project, 279, is Highway 34 west of Highway 45, north of Chamberlain, north of Kimball. It's shoulder widening. There's about 7 miles of shoulder widening, and then there's actually about 10 miles of overlay up there too. About 18 million. 289 would be another one. South Parkway, South Veterans Parkway. That would be the last of those 4 of those projects. It'd be Sycamore to 57th Street. It's kind of 2.1 miles at $46 million. Seemed like we're getting very far for 40 some million. Same as the other sections, it's 6-lane divided. It'll connect 69th and 57th. And then once that's completed, that whole section will be turned over to City of Sioux Falls. And finally here, 2026 resurfacing, 6 projects, 47 million, 70 miles. Couple here, 287, that's Highway 38 from Riverside over to the county line. And that'll be after the grading project in 2025. So we'll be resurfacing all that. And then 297 is South Dakota 34 from Woonsocket to Highway 37. What we'll do is we're going to go, the concrete up there is falling apart. So we're going to bust that up and put a new top on it. And then there's some areas up there with gravel shoulders. We're actually going to be adding asphalt shoulders to those. So. Mike had mentioned that, safety is very important. I would say it's our #1 goal. Safety is very important to the DOT, and it should be. Some of the improvements Mike had mentioned were, intersection improvements, turn lanes, signing, rumble strips, all those are, any improvement we can do to a highway is definitely there. Maybe something that I'd like to mention is number 7 there. Variable speed limits. That's one that's come up, in different areas. So this is from, excuse me. This is from Flander to Brookings. So they're going to be putting variable speed signs with variable speed limits on that. It'd be similar to what they're proposed doing out by Tilford, out there by Rapid City. 25 and 36 are roadway lighting projects. US 18 through Burke, we're going to put some lighting through Burke. And then also some I-229 median lighting over there. 45 is traffic signals. So the one in particular on the 45 is on South Dakota 115 by the Harrisburg High School. They're having trouble getting in and out of there, so they're going to put a light up there for them. 51, Mike had mentioned some of these high friction surface courses. This one's on I-29 north of Del Rapids, improving some curves and some bridges up there. So, and 299 is a median cable barrier. You see these a lot in Minnesota, where there's actually a high strength cable down the center of the median. So that'll be from the Harrisburg exit to the I-90 29 junction. And then there's also a couple on I-90 that they're looking at in the future. So, so in summary, I guess to end this thing, you know, we got $1.4 billion in the next 4 years just in the Mitchell Regional. It's quite crazy when you think about it. But we'll get her done. Anyway, like I said, all this stuff's on the website. Harry, Greg, and I'll be here afterwards. If you got any individual questions, give us a call, email us, do whatever you got to do. We're here to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. $1.4 billion. That's a lot more than when I started 20 years ago. It seemed like that would be about 20 years worth of work to get there. That's just in one region. There's definitely a lot of work coming up. So thanks for that, Jay. Appreciate it. It takes a team in the department to deliver that transportation system. And I just want to acknowledge and introduce a few folks that I didn't introduce earlier. Secretary Joel Jont is here as well tonight. Secretary's been with the department for a long time and been a great friend. Craig Smith, he's our director of operations. So his team works to build and maintain and preserve the transportation system that we have, and also winter maintenance activities. Mark Leiferman on my left-hand side over here. Mark's our project development program manager. So his team is involved in day-to-day operations of these projects, along with Levi, who's the master of our STIP. Steve Graham is in the back, and he's helping out tonight as well. And Jay did introduce our area engineers as well. So it takes a great team and great relationships with our county partners to deliver this transportation system. With that, we are going to open up for public comment. Steve does have a microphone in the back. If you'd like to provide comment, please raise your hand. Steve will come over and introduce yourself and who you represent, and we'll go from there. So do we have anyone that would like to start tonight? Front, Steve.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Was a speak. My name is Ron Wagner, and I'm from the Rails to Trail that goes from we're going from Haber to Platte. And we're not here for rail, we're here for the highway. You're expanding the shoulders really nice, making them wide. What we're looking for is probably some signage and some help with that. We've been down to Nebraska. They gave Knox and Cedar County $2 million to study stuff, how to do development, and we went down and talked to 8 senators down there, and they were all interested. And I have maps here that I hand out. In the middle, it shows different highways and
Thank you.
proposed routes we have. But we consider anything you can help with the signage or help on design. So we appreciate you making the road wider. And that's the main thing I have to say, I guess. Any help we can get, we appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll do a quick repeat here for the recording to make sure we've got it, but comment regarding additional signing and appreciates the water shoulders and things that we can do to help in that area. I assume you mean it for bicycle use. Is that correct? Or is it for, yep. Okay. And yep, bicycle and walking use to make sure that folks know it's here.
Because a lot of the people walk there. Okay. It's quite dangerous.
Well, thank you very much for that. And one thing we're looking at doing over the course of the next year is we're looking to get a little bit more of a plan developed for ped and bicycle use in South Dakota for what that could look like. So as we start rolling that out, definitely want to get input and thoughts from the users of those facilities of what would work and what could work here in South Dakota. So thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any future among the tribal business and finance committee. The half where units of business owners. My concern with the highway 46 project is planning for. I'm very on traffic. There is a small business power. Any amount of relevant permit travel. Five full consent permits and four apartment. All really different. Very excited today to know as far as so my question, the topic of the is what type of response you have small business owners? Those businesses.
Yeah, Kip, great question. And again, I'll try to summarize here. So correct me if I get anything incorrect as I try to summarize. Kip's got a small business in Wagner and concerned about what the construction activities would do and the access to your property and how that impacts your property and your business from functioning. Did I capture that fairly? Yeah, and that's definitely something that we need to look at in every project. Every time we go through on a construction project, we're going to be looking at access. How can we make the facility safer and still maintain that access to the property to make sure it can function? Generally, we'll go through the design. We'll have landowner meetings to talk about how your business functions, how's the traffic come in and out, and try to get those details worked out. And as we go through the process even further, our right-of-way team will work with you on that as well. So there'll be a process to go through as far as final access. During construction, we attempt to maintain access to businesses throughout construction activities. And it can be difficult, especially in an urban area that's constrained. And I'll admit that it can be difficult to maintain excellent access, but our goal is to maintain access to those businesses during construction. So that would be our goal. I don't know the details of the specifics of where your property is. Jay is here. I'm sure he can visit with you afterwards on some of the details of it to see what kind of some of the thoughts are. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying too. And so if this up, like if I take my numbers last year previous, I'm going to get different. And it's because of the but the state, what can they do for small business as far as aid, because they're going to impact. They can say that you're going to mitigate that, but mitigation means that down here is and so that's my concern is that lots of small business and so the other companies here too wanted to innovate how important and how possibility to multiple for engineers and the state committed to have cultural to like strata of the new point experience to back to optimization or change their so the forms may be really in a law and then know that the mitigating factors that you're speaking of, make sure that that happens. And it's where you have a phone, you have a turn, and it's all flush. You know, you're on dirt. You know, somebody's going to be having construction. So I put it on software to make sure that you take care of the small business. Because we're creating revenue, we're creating.
Yep, thank you for the comments, and maybe just to reiterate a few things you said again for the recording to ensure the cultural component is considered during the construction activities definitely is a concern. And also the mitigation of revenue loss, essentially, or projected revenue loss that you'd be anticipating during construction. So from a DOT standpoint, there is no revenue replacement mechanism in place. We do work as quickly as we can in front of our businesses, trying to reduce the amount of impact to our businesses during construction activities. And again, that's something that we work through with all of our businesses. So let's have a conversation and talk with Jay about where you're at and how we can help to reduce the impact to you and other businesses along that corridor during construction.
First of all, I would like to thank DOT for moving forward with replacing the walking path. Budgeting and happened in 2019. I see that project probably was going to happen, and it is a safety issue for the people in our community. That would be great to have that. And in the sloping, to fix that sloping looks like second of all, I'm proud of the city council meeting, and I have to say about this, that when the 46, when the highway was brought straight 46, they can't block the signage that there are people partially communities. So when we read right, there's nothing there that identifies that a concern is when they. That's a concern of our city council. It is valid in couple city council meetings, and I'm hoping to visit with you again about it. Hoping about the signage that was needed, because it is important for us to have.
Thank you. Comment was regarding the walking path replacement and then the construction. I think we got a project coming up to flatten the slopes here in the next couple of years where we did have to do the grade arrays out there. So that should be forthcoming here in the next couple of years. Definitely something that we're moving towards. And the signing near the realignment, I guess I'm not familiar with that. Jay, or Jay's familiar with it?
Yeah, we're working on that. In fact, we're got a proposal to get that changed. Yep.
Jay mentioned there's a proposal to get that changed. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lori Wilson from the Wagner. I just wanted to what Jim was talking about. If you could speak a little bit to the 3-lane or 4-lane to 3-lane project that's going through Wagner. I need some help understanding why this is happening. I've been speaking with people in surrounding areas that have gone from 4-lane to 3-lane. They're very unhappy about it. And it will affect small businesses. I also have a small business along the highway that will be affected. So if you could please just help me understand why this is coming about.
Certainly. Yeah, the comment or question was regarding Wagner and the reconstruction project that's coming up and the planned reconfiguration for a 3-lane section there and why it's happening and why is it moving forward. One of the bigger issues that are out there's two kind of big issues that we've got on that 46 stretch, the pavement conditions and getting to be pretty tough shape. It's got some issues where there isn't a lot of good mitigation options for us to try to hold things together. There's also some drainage issues in town that need to be kind of fixed up as well. So that's leading us to a reconstruction. We looked at various options. We had conversations, several public meetings on it. Had one here in November, looking at lane configuration. What should lane configuration look like? It's a tight section through town. There's buildings very close. There's businesses that are very close to the roadway right now. So as we look at what options are out there, the sidewalk right now is right next to the roadway. So is looking at all the options, the safety, the operational impacts of it. Our recommendation is continue to go forward with the 3-lane section out there. We can separate that path off to the outside. We don't need additional property or significant impacts from adjacent businesses to take property away from them. So as we move forward, that's why we're looking to go with the 3-lane section through town. The two driving forces again are pavement condition and the drainage issues we've got in town. Steve?
And I understand that, that makes sense to me. But have we explored options for moving sidewalk on one side of the road? My vision is the picture that I just saw from that, where coming into the side on Casey, huge RV with the home, hanging out into the 3-lane, moving 2 lanes of traffic. There's no place else to go. Wagner has that. Let's talk about this the road. So they moved from a 4-lane to a 3-lane, and there's no way to get around this. We've got combines coming through, blocking 2 lanes of traffic, and there's nothing else. And I know when I went to the meeting in November, and I was talking about putting snow removal in the middle of it. Well, what do you do with your emergency vehicles when you've got 3 lanes, one of them is in snow, and 2 are occupied? I don't see it as a smoother way to move traffic along, and like I said, I don't see the issues that you're seeing yet with people that they're going to try to have this construction.
Yeah, so the question and comment was, and I'll do the best I can to remember the points you made, so bear with me here for a second, was the configuration, lane configuration through town, going from a 4-lane to a 3-lane with the larger vehicles that come through town. Snow removal, which was mentioned at the meeting, that some communities actually do that for a snow removal practice. That's not necessarily anything that needs to be done, but they'll move that snow to the center, and then they'll actually make cuts at intersections so folks can get through and make that maneuver. And then why essentially is it being done? Could sidewalk go on one side instead of being on both sides? So I'll do my best to answer those questions, and bear with me here as I try to go through them in my head again. The sidewalk, as we look at pedestrian movements, we put sidewalk on both sides of the road. PEDs are generally, especially in an urban area, they're on both sides of the road. Whether they're coming from one direction to the other, they'll walk on both sides of the road. So we want sidewalk on both sides of the road in those facilities. From a snow removal standpoint, again, that's something that's up to the community. I don't believe Wagner meets the population threshold. Like, do we still do the snow removal in town?
It'll go out.
So DOT will be doing the snow removal, but again, some communities, they have used that center turn lane as a storage area. And as far as safety and operations of large vehicles, our intent is to have that 14-foot outside lane instead of our 12-foot that we have here today. So it'll be a little bit wider. And so as folks move through town, is there a potential to be slowed up by a very large vehicle? Yes, there's a potential. That same potential would be there today with that large vehicle, which would occupy essentially 2 through lanes as it's making its way through town. But in the same sense, we're trying to fit a section in there that's going to fit from a safety and operational standpoint in the future for Wagner with the 3-lane section.
And then your information on page 11 refers to structure 6 miles north of Avon on 296th Street. Now that's a county road. What's the state involved?
Yeah, just make sure I got the number right. Was it 21?
Page 11.
Oh, page 11. Okay. You have a number on the left-hand side. Okay. You want a second? So as I'm going through, the Bridge Improvement Grant Fund was developed in 2015. So it's called the Bridge Improvement Grant Fund. It was developed in 2015. So it's a program that we've got to help replace local government structures and county structures across the state. So counties apply for a replacement grant to get that project replaced, and it shows up in our STIP. There's also a local federal bridge program replacement as well. Through congressional action, it provided some funding from a federal aid standpoint to help replace structures. Our commission shared proportionally with our local governments based upon poor condition deck area. So you'll see these in our STIP as well, because they're reflected either through the big program or through the local government federal aid bridge program. So it's that partnership that we have in our STIP.
So is this federal money that you go off to the county?
So, and again, if I'm looking at the right one, number 126, That is going to be a federal aid project. So it's one of our federal aid projects that they applied for and they got the funds to do. The DOT is administering those projects. So we're getting ready to go for lighting. And then we'll let them out and then we'll do the construction admin of them. So we'll actually do the management of the project. And it's not money that's doled out to the counties. It's all done on an application basis. And there's criteria based upon condition of structure and traffic volume. So there's this point scoring thing that the counties will apply for. If they're successful, they'll be moving forward on a project.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the question was relating to why was there a local government structure identified in the STIP, and it relates back to the Bridge Improvement Grant Program and the federal aid program. Thank you, Ed.
John, County Commissioner from Davis County. We've been pretty busy. And a lot of good things happening. I wanted to point out that a lot of people talk about the soybean factory or processor. It's known to us now as multi-seed processing, but also the sunflower seed. And I just wanted to say I am so thankful you're all here. We look forward to a real busy time. Above and beyond our transportation needs and everything, I simply want to mention if anybody has 1 million gallons of water, we'd like to have that. Thank you, every time.
John Clegg mentioned that there's big developments going on in and around Mitchell. A seed processing, I thought it was soybean processing. So thank you for that seed processing plant. Well, I think happening south of town here, a couple miles. We've been aware of it and been having some conversations. One thing that we are going to be looking at is what does that section look like from a traffic standpoint? So we're waiting for some traffic information. And once we get that, we're gonna be able to take a look at that corridor and how it could work and should work. And hopefully we can get some things kind of worked out in that area. So thank you very much.
I apologize for this is a little bit of Wagner. Wagner is very aware of our room limitation for, but we love our 4-lane. We really do. I was driving to Parkson the other day and I watched the 3-lane get used for a passing lane. You know, we had a meeting in November and we had a pretty good showing, and we all know this one. I think we'd have a lot more people here today, but I think most people just feel like the state's going to do the decision. We're going to kick off 3-lane. There's just too many factors that we love our boy, we're smart. I feel like maybe if the state gives in on the 4-lane, that you're gonna have to fight that 4-lane thing in a lot of other communities, but where we sit, other reasons we talked about in the meeting, but we're really going backwards as we go to 3-lane.
I'm going to repeat the comment again. We got some folks here that are watching via Zoom, but feels like we're really going backwards if we go with the 3-lane, that you really want to see the 4-lane out there in Wagner. And I was at the meeting in November and we had a chance to visit afterwards, and we committed to take a look at the 4-lane, put the 4-lane options together, did that. As we took a look at the data, the impacts of the 4 lanes, the costs, we take a look at the overall transportation system. We're trying to get that best system we possibly can through town. And the data is showing us that the 3-lane should be there. And it's not, it could be a 4-lane in a different town or anything along those lines. We try to fit the lane configuration or what's best based upon the traffic, the pedestrian use, the crossings. It depends upon the location. As we look through Wagner, we look at what's out there, how close properties are adjacent to it. That's where the data is showing us that project needs to go.
Michelle Wilburn, and I appreciate the fact that you are here and share. I too, like Jeff, just want to say we will share in November. I know people will come here that what I like to do is they make a decision. They get to consider what we offer, and so I think that's a real key. And I guess help me understand 1,500 people really want to saying we love our 4-lane. We keep hearing over and over it's so good to safety. Well, based on statistics that are on your site, our safety levels are lower than anywhere else. So it's kind of like not why are we trying to fix it? Because moving to the 3 lane is probably just gonna roll up a number of additional problems. So safety for me is a struggle. Regarding the sidewalk, I too feel like, gosh, if we have to have a sidewalk, why not have it on one side? Or do we need a sidewalk? And I say that because as I go to the park center right here, there is one. As I ride to Beersford, there's a stretch of that where there's no sidewalk. We have received a grant that there will be a sidewalk basically on Second Street, which would be safer for anyone to go on the downtown school. So there is a chunk of money that's going in that direction, which to me would say stronger. In terms of, if you look at the numbers that I read on the DOT site, you look at traffic flow, and I just pick out 3 areas, Wagner, Kendall, and Beersford. Wagner's got the highest traffic count, according to the site that I read on your site. And I've been told that Kendall cited 4 or 5 or 4 with the current. Beersford has 4. We are going back. You know, as Tip talks and Lori talks about, we have small businesses that are trying to survive. I feel like this is putting a stranglehold on. This is a 40-year decision. We are looking to build our community and grow stronger into the future. And I feel like this is shooting us down. Our road is a corridor of the river. There are hundreds of vehicles that head that direction every single day. I feel like we're the best people in our little part of the state. And I just feel like it is going to kill our small town and our small business. So, if the city of Wagner, the city council comes to you and says, we know that your recommendation is 3 lane, but we'd like 4 lane, at that point, will you look at doing a 4 lane?
So Michelle, there's quite a bit there. My memory isn't as good as it used to be. My hair is getting gray, but I'll do the best I can. So thank you. Conversation started with the petitions, a number of folks who were interested and concerned about the lane configuration out there. And, you know, that's one of the things that helped precipitate that meeting in November, to go and listen, talk. All right, what do we have? What are the concerns? What are the issues? And do that deep dive review of what could this look like? How could it work? And based upon that review and the analysis, our analysis showed that we needed to stay with the 3 lanes. So that did work. We heard from folks. They said, look at it, do the analysis. There was also comments about, you should be looking at ped crossings here. You should be looking at a ped crossing there. And there's folks that are in favor of it. And then there was comments about looking at turn lanes, I think further off to the west as well, that we need to be considering that as well. So those things were incorporated and are going to be incorporated into the project. And as you look at crash rates and number of crashes that occur out there, any crash is too many crashes. If there's an opportunity to reduce a crash, we want to try to do that. And from a pedestrian standpoint and from a small business standpoint, some of the conversations we've had is there are pedestrians out there that use the facility and use the corridor out there. So not having sidewalk for folks that use that corridor isn't something that we feel we can move forward with. Transportation just isn't wheels. It's also feet or pikes and pedals. So again, trying to make sure that corridor is going to work for transportation into the future. So those are the things that we're trying to focus on. As you look at the 4 lane versus the 3 lane and how much traffic volume is being able to handle on those corridors, you know, that was one of the things that was brought up when we looked at it and reviewed it, and it can handle the traffic. It should be able, you know, there could be some times at a signal where you have some queue backup, no different than you have today. But again, we feel that it can handle the traffic very well into the future. So again, those are the things that we're focusing on. And I appreciate your comments. And, you know, we've had conversations at other points in time too. So I appreciate the conversation we've had and all the input. But as we look at the data is driving us towards the 3 lane section for the long term, for that safe, efficient corridor out there.
So if the city of Wagner, the city council comes back to you and says, we would like to go forward with the 4 lane.
If we get a response back from the city that they're in disagreement or had any issues with what our proposal is, we definitely sit down and visit with them about a solution moving forward. Now, I can't say that means this or that or the other thing, but we talk through a solution and find a way to move us forward. We work in partnerships with our county and our local governments, and that's important. We want to make sure that we're building things for the future. So again, if there's some issues that are brought from the city, we'll definitely work with them on it.
And if the city does come forward with that, would it include lighting? project.
So the question was, if the city came forward with concerns with the lighting and sewer, would that come forward with it? And I guess I'm not completely following, but the reconstruction project, any reconstruction project would include, if we were a full regrade, would include storm sewer, and it would include some sort of lighting configuration along the sidewalk along the corridor. I mean, that's an urban facility that we'd be looking to build.
And another question is, as we talk specifically about safety, and there is some conversation, I know, in the letter that is there, we talked about that, you know, out there. So that was vague in the letter. You're not thinking of doing three-lane all the way out to that area, are you? Or are you?
So the question was regarding 393rd, and I can't remember the exact number, so I'm going to go 393rd for right now. But it's one of the intersections off to the west of Wagner. Some concerns with essentially that were brought up about safety at that intersection. So would the 3-lane extend all the way out to that intersection? I can't remember exactly where it would end right now past the school, and then how far of a distance it is to that next intersection. So if it would be like an hourglass going in and out, or if it would stay about the same just to get to that intersection. I don't have all those details. Jay, I don't know if.
Yeah, actually, yes, it is. At that same public meeting that we were talking about in November, there was a lot of concerns of people living along that route, like by the lake, that they would actually like turn lanes going in their place. So with the intersection out there and the box culvert that we're going to be redoing there, yes, it will be a 3-lane all the way out past that intersection. Yes.
And I just would reiterate what Jeff said, we love our lane, and I just see going backwards, it's shooting us that investment. Absolutely, seriously, I mean, I really do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was pretty upset. I felt like shut down. Then, you know, pros and cons. Actually, I felt like we're going to get this and slowly on past. Really wasn't that. There were compromises. At the center. The main get heavy wets. And the city is going like that. Push it to the side. And you have a 4-lane. Freezes. Big clumps along the side of going in the lane. Trying to pass it. That's kind of what it's like. But with the 3-lane, there's actually room there, which just freezes up. It's no big deal. So that's one of the actually not that. Either try.
Where are you from? And I had dinner with 2 people from Woonsocket tonight, and they said, "Oh my God, it's gonna be bad."
I don't think so. I'm not. You should not.
And I'll.
We are recording this tonight, so if we could allow him to finish and then it can come back. Just want to make sure that we got it covered. Thank you.
But the storage will freezing and stuff that's so that it's possible. Also, I wanted to show that the American
respect to heritage burials or grounds. Yeah, I think it's very important not to destroy history. Destroy the history. Also, alternative destroyers.
Thank you. The comment was experience for the individual in their town, and then also respecting our 106 consultation and in coordination with our travel partners throughout our state.
My name is Lynn Dale, I'm from Archton. I didn't come here on the way. I live out of the law. I wish we had it for like, it's numerous businesses in that while, but we have a separate treatment. We have that serious action. Myself, they're not going 5 miles. They're not. License plate. Certainly because you're not looking for someone to pass you. So that's, and I am trying to be colorblind. I also hate it. I like the facts when I got a lot going on. Fails, I can get it all, plus when I go to the town and say, I'm always going lower than you. I don't want to have to worry about step off the sidewalk or kids. I'm probably, I'm going, the city comes first in the town like that. But I enjoy the Parker. And how we find some type of reaction to these days, get to that, 2, 3 spots. And go with us to travel. They're custom, and there's kind of like the Washington. Somebody that had science involved. Looked at. And then earlier, Jay and I talked about the project on the file partially. I was under the impression Jay points out now. That would be good last. He's getting actual.
Great. Gentleman provided some comments regarding his experience with different lane configurations, and Parkston being one of them, and others. And also a question regarding what I think would be settlement. I don't know whose area that would fit into. Greg, you want to?
There's some issues there.
Steve will get you the microphone here.
What's going on 44? Is there some issues there for the winter time and then once we're showing up, the freeze off not uniform? So it would make them areas move more than the other areas. It's time around in spring and freeze come on. Really we just make that in the summer to see what I'm going to need a project to go in and bring on the road.
Who's got the other section? Yeah, the other question was Parkston, I guess, the concrete pavement schedule on that one. I'll let you.
Yeah, like I was originally, just an OR down and all of that. It takes about 8 years to get a total reconstruction, you survey all the way to the right away and design, so that puts it in that 27, 8 time. So it's the right thing to do. The maintenance guys were down there the other day just filling that out and response and stuff, so we'll just have to keep maintaining. So we're, and we don't like it any better, but it's what we gotta do. We'll get it.
Being recall check and stuff. I'll support everything. Take it for program plan here. But although it's in the room, it's important. Okay, proposed. Address smart. Well, first of all, just shout out to Greg Goldschmidt for keeping the oil boilers off the highway during check days, so we can have a bunch of anyway, thank you for that. Hey, John, Mr. John, I've been through your time. I needed to go through your. So bad, I've never seen it. I've been through the park. You can't. 2 miles of business and homes stacked right together. And anyway, shout out to the gang, you know, this is for guy named Cliff Rose that has been promised to lose mayor. A bunch of other folks to honor their memories. We try to get a bypass from the. And we have to, I believe Senator Runoff is online to keep those promises. Portal. The actual truckers and the boycotting of because of the congestion issue. And just the last week, the construction down there, now imagine Wagner with the 2 lanes go through Yankton, now when we had the construction with 2 lanes and a turn lane, it was a disaster. And you're gonna go up to 6,000 traffic count from 4,000 in Wagner, that's gonna be an even bigger disaster. So anyway, this is an economic disaster waiting to happen. Right? The data as this is Jefferson 1.16 million. The safety doesn't appear to be the issue. I don't know what it is. Sidewalks put them on one side. A lot of times with the things, there's an accident rate issue. Having people run people over on the sidewalks. 1,566 petition signers, hundreds of letters, email, expert witnesses, users of the 4 lanes every day. Every concern the DOT presented for the 2 lanes has been answered. So why still push for the 2 lane over saving the 4? I don't know. At the meeting we were promised, we thought a meeting with the city councils and public showing figures that you base these safety rates on. When you're basing them on national, New York and California are not like us. Sure, the data are accident rates aren't like us. And we have a real low rate, and that's proven by your own thing. My understanding of Lindsay was promised on the public meeting or public application. And the city council was supposed to discuss it in the public forum. None of that happened. Instead, we got a new information. Not answer to a letter that was written by our group. This is not acceptable. Traffic flow, like I said, I need to run my atmosphere for my life. I can see you sitting in that traffic. And they're whizzing by at 30 miles an hour. Imagine what that's going to be like. I think we will be someday. There's no question about that. Based on the sedimentation in the lake, based on the traffic patterns going out the rest, it will grow, and it needs to have a 4 lane. You need to build for the future, and you got to look at what's been in 40 years now. This is going to be this is the 30 to 40 years in inheritance most eloquently
30 to 40-year decision. Every concern presented by J. Buckle and the DOT and Mitchell engineer has been addressed. You now have a public relations disaster in Wagner, South Dakota. You got them fired now. They're not happy, and they're throwing some of the around. That's not the DOT I would praise and love. All the years I dealt with you guys on a public basis, this is not the DOT I can. Is it not wrong for the DOT to say we made a mistake? We'll work for the best interests of our people is a sign of strength, not of weakness. Rush hour from Wagner, will be even worse. 3 to 4 times a day now when I talk to Dan and some other folks. 3 to 4 times a day is already effective. So I don't know. I was going through Wagner tonight, you know, it was a slow moving. And he was going all 15 miles an hour. Well, I was a little patient to pick up a few things regular. I was on the bullshit, I was running 10 miles under the speed limit or not. And following that, even that half mile at 15 miles an hour, it tries your patience. Well, permanent something going on, but that's not me. More fearless. Anyway, there's nowhere to turn. And, you know, the traffic doesn't seem to be the issue there, but what in the world is going on? We need the decision of all users of Highway 46 to be involved. This is, when you talk about rush hour, we're supposed to be enjoying Wagner Labor Day parade festivities in Wagner. We're gonna lose people because they're gonna be tired of going and being in traffic jams and accidents, and clusters of crowds and cars and pickups and everything. It's a real concern. 5, 6, 7,000 people celebration. You're going to jeopardize the. I've been repeatedly told by some of the council that they personally are opposed to doing with the turnaround, but do not want funding jeopardized or in any way ruffling the feathers of the DOT for funding down the road. I ask you, is that a true statement, or is there a potential for them speaking out to ruffle your feathers and hurt the funding for other projects or for this project? That's I certainly hope not. Again, this is not the DOT I know and love. The future of 1,500 people, the feelings of 1,500 people should be not forgiven. I know of 3 people. One is the city finance officer who doesn't even live in Wagner, and 2 others that are in favor of this. Not too many more. So you can't say there's a groundswell of support. You can't base it on true safety issues. So what is the reason? And I have yet to, I really struggle to find that out. Again, no public meetings, no meetings with the council after you got rid of last fall. What does the future hold? Transparency, transparency, transparency. Secretary Dunn, I look forward to working with the community, maybe go down there and address them. And at least one more time for all the people involved. We feel that the 4-lane will actually continue to be the best solution for continued safety along the way. Snow removal in middle lanes, that is reality, that is a concern. Please lay out the framework of the decision based on facts. What is in the best future of Wagner? I think Kip Eagle said very well, the tribe is in full support. Tribal members, I get 3, 4, 500 of them sign that petition to get to back in town. Yes, I can give you another copy of all those petitions to do. I don't want to do that. Mission has not approved this, is that correct? Here I guess I would ask you, that yet it's scheduled on the 26th plan. So if it doesn't have final approval, how can it be on the plan? I don't think it can. That's the question. I don't think you guys are voting on it. So,
Sir, may I address some of your questions as they come up? I'm trying to do the best I can to keep track of. Okay.
And it's being over the green light now already. They haven't even approved. City council needs to be encouraged and strengthened by the DOT to go. They will not be blackballed and speak up out and address their concerns. Because they have concerns, like the rest of these people. And the repercussions are not on the table, and there's no retribution. I'm just disappointed in all years of DOT that I work with you folks and you've been wonderful. Just disappointed about how the direction is taken. I would ask, somehow you go back and take a look at what's the right and base it on the local safety record instead of going on national. Just those things. Thank you for your time, and I can tell you you're doing great work all over the state. Get behind those lines and follow them. These drivers, and they don't drive anything they have to speed that for our safety. Same thing needs to be said about the wagon four lane. The 4 lanes is the best and the safest option. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll repeat a portion of that for the folks that are on Zoom here today. Comments were relating to the lane configuration for the most part in Wagner. And I'm repeating this for the folks that are online here today. And requesting essentially to retain the 4-lane section in Wagner based upon the information that you provided. A question relating to if there's an issue with the city or the city were to raise their hands or concerns relating to this, would it cause impact or jeopardize funding for the city in the future with the DOT? No, definitely not. That's not anything that would happen. We'd work with the county or the city or whoever our local partners are to find an amenable solution to that particular project. So definitely, as far as the Transportation Commission and where are we at in that process right now, we're in the process of taking a look at what's in our STIP right now and actually getting public comment and getting that input. And our commission will probably take action on the STIP here in August timeframe. It'd be the general timeframe to approve it. Our commission has multiple iterations for approvals on it. It's through the STIP approval process, it's through the bid letting process and various options. So the commission would take action, assuming in that August timeframe for the cycle of it and all the new projects that came in. I don't know that I had any other questions written down there.
Yeah, just put it in writing. There will be no retributions. Not just
Okay. The request was to put it in writing for a retribution, and I don't know that. I'll take that comment into consideration, but that's not how we've done business or will do business in the future. So thank you. It looks like we have one question or comment on. Are we on Facebook there, or which one are we on? Jean Hunoff, I think, has her hand up.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to do this via this media opportunity. So I didn't have to drive to Mitchell. It was a hot dog night in Tabor. And so with my business here, I had to get my New York style hot dog cart out and serve the people that were here. I want to say thank you to those that I have heard providing testimony. I think when you are talking about the 4 to 3 lanes, I think if you go east, there's been communities east of on Highway 50 that have been impacted and have had to make those kind of adjustments. And I also can appreciate the concerns that are expressed by the communities, because when you have something that appears to be working, it is challenging when you're asked to do different. I have 2 comments and a question. My first comment is I want to thank the Department of Transportation. Even listening tonight, you are challenged every day for the things that you do, with this down from the secretary to all of the staff that you identified, but more importantly, the employees that are out on the front line working on the roads. And this summer has been tremendous with the temperatures that they've had to bear. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate all the work that they're doing to keep our roads in great shape. My second is just an observation and a question. I'm probably a legislator that travels more roads in South Dakota than anybody else. I've also been going to a lot of national meetings, and I've been driving because the airlines you can't really depend upon. One of the things I've observed as we see an increase in the size of ag equipment and also other things that are moving on our state highways, in other states, they have, when they've done highways, they've done maybe a mile or a mile and a half on a road that's really frequent with a lot of traffic and big equipment, and put like a lane on the outside so that traffic on the 2 lane can pass this big piece of equipment. And I just was questioning if ever that opportunity, as you start redoing and you're continuing redoing state highway roads, if there's any attention. Shoulders are nice, but they're not large enough to cover the equipment that we're having to doing. And we're a tourist state. And if you've got a line of 12 to 13 cars following something, just a question if that's ever been expressed as you're redoing. Nothing new, but to add on to roads to accommodate for that, because the equipment is getting much larger than what we've traditionally had. My last question is this. I just came back from the South CSG, and I had posted on my Facebook page that I attended the policy session about where are the revenues going to come for future infrastructure needs. We know that there's a growing propensity for a different kind of vehicle that does not use gas. We've had a little bit of discussion in the legislature, but in looking at what some of the other states are talking about, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying, is the department and the commission looking at that? As an appropriator, we're talking revenue. Gas taxes are what provides. If you no longer have that option or that portion coming in, what is the department looking at? Is what the future plans to explore to present to the legislature as to what are other options? The number that was thrown out was 2034. I don't know if that's right or not, as that's where we're going to see a significant shift among some states, not necessarily South Dakota, because we're an ag state, so certainly dependent upon gas. But I'd be real interested, and you don't have to answer the question now, but you can be sure that if I get back to Pierre, that'll be one of the first questions that'll be on my docket as to where are we looking for revenues. You introduced Senator Mike Valley. He was the one that carried that bill that increased the gas tax, and that was no easy task for Senator Valley. And so I think that's something that's in the relatively near future. Thank you again for all you do.
Thank you, Senator. And I don't believe I need to repeat it because hopefully it came through for everybody. I'm getting a nod here. It came through for everybody that's joined virtually. So thank you very much for joining us tonight and the questions and comments. And I too want to applaud our team that's out there every single day. They're doing a heck of a job trying to make sure you can get to where you want to go and get there safely and efficiently, and give them a break, and remind other folks to give them a break as you're driving our roads across the state of South Dakota. Our folks and our contractors, they're doing the good work for us. We can enjoy the life we have. One of the questions, and I'll do my best to make sure I have it captured correctly, is in other states, you've noticed that there's on a 2-lane roadway, there's an additional lane every so often to allow for passing opportunities. And yes, that is something that we're actually in the process of doing right now on the stretch from Aberdeen to Ipswich. That will actually be it's got a term called a Super 2 because it's a super 2-lane roadway. It allows for passing lanes along that corridor in certain locations, so folks know that there's another passing opportunity in X number of miles. And we are looking to deploy that even more into South Dakota. As our traffic volumes start to increase, we get a heavy mix of ag equipment. You're talking earlier just about the soybean plant and what are we going to look like south here on 37. And again, not saying that it could look like that or would look like that, but that may be an option too, as we see higher traffic volume down there, to look at a Super 2 or something along those lines to allow those passing lanes to occur on that particular stretch of highway or throughout South Dakota. There'll be another one coming up between Belfouche and Whitewood. That's another one out, obviously a little further west from here, but that project will be coming up next year to do essentially the same thing, to provide that passing lane opportunity. So yes, we are looking at it. If there's ideas or thoughts on corridors that you think we should be looking at more, let us know. We always want to hear from folks where you're getting stuck behind a lot of vehicles. Obviously you're going 65 miles an hour, not 75 miles an hour in a posted 65 section. The second question was relating to alternative fuel vehicles and revenue capture associated with those alternative fuel vehicles. We are right now in the process of developing electric vehicle infrastructure deployment plan. That is required as a part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that we take a look at what that could look like or would look like in South Dakota. It's allowed us to take a look at potential charging locations for electric vehicles in South Dakota as we look at the interstate corridor, I-90 and I-29. We've also included I-229 in there and I-190. That's that little spur in Rapid City. As we're looking at that, we're looking at adoption rates, and Senator, you mentioned 2034 timeframe. It's consistent with what we're seeing nationally, and what are we going to see in South Dakota? It might be a different story. Last I checked, I think there was about 1,400 BEVs, battery electric vehicles. So those would be the vehicles that only rely on batteries, not a hybrid or plug-in electric hybrid, registered in South Dakota. But we know there's other electric vehicles coming into our state. So as they traverse our state, get from point A to point B, how are they getting there? So that's one of the things that we're looking at. I would encourage folks to take a look at the website, www.stevplan.com. There's some good information on there regarding what it could look like in the future and trying to help us plan for what it could look like. It's given us a great opportunity to engage with the electrics and others across the state, trying to get an idea of capacity, grid capacity, how this could work. This is something that we're seeing the consumer market shift to. If any of you are familiar with some of the major brands out there, that Ford Lightning, I'll just use that as an example. I don't believe you can actually go purchase one and you put your name on a list like many vehicles or things right now to get one. But the consumer market is really driving the EV end of things. So as the consumer is pushing in that direction, how can we be reactive from a DOT standpoint? Now, that wasn't directly related to the revenue component of things. As Senator Hunhoff mentioned earlier, the fuel tax. So when you put fuel in your vehicle, you pay a tax to help pay for the road user fee. So what does an electric vehicle pay? Currently, the electric vehicle registered in South Dakota pays an additional $50 each year for registration that goes in the trust fund to help offset that cost for that use of that roadway. How does that capture a cost for somebody that lives in Minnesota, maybe coming through South Dakota that would have purchased vehicle or fuel, but it's not captured that way. And it's a big question nationally right now for a road user charge. What is a road user charge and how could it work? Obviously technology is there to kind of show where folks are driving, but there's privacy concerns with that. So that's being really discussed at the national level right now. And we're trying to work our way through that as well, because if that inversion point does happen in 2035, 2045, the roads are still there. Folks are still going to need to drive on what's a revenue source in order to get there. So great questions. And I wish I had a great answer for you, but I guess the best I can say is we're working on it. We're trying to look at this nationally as well. Thank you again for the comments and tuning in tonight. Hopefully the hot dogs were good. I think we have one right over here.
What problems are there? And if there are plans, how do we get that done?
So the question was, what is a plan for a community with a conversion, lane conversion from a 4-lane to a 3-lane or 3-lane to a 5-lane or whatever the lane configuration is? So the community involvement is probably multifaceted. One is meetings like this, right? This is definitely an opportunity to provide input. Emails are definitely another opportunity. Public meetings are held on all of our reconstruction projects, whether it's a lane configuration change or it's going to keep the same lane configuration. So we hold public meetings as well. During COVID, obviously we couldn't go out and do a lot of them in person. We did hold some in person, and we left that up to folks and their comfort level of coming to a meeting and being around others. So we did do some online versions as well, but the public meeting process for all of our reconstruction projects and multiple public meetings, depending upon the project, is definitely one of the ways to engage and get thoughts and ideas on any number of factors, whether it's type of lighting or drainage issues. We also hold landowner meetings. So if you're an adjacent landowner, those meetings are held with you as well throughout the process. The second follow-up question was specifically, what is the city council and how to get their input on things? So when we go out and start doing our inspections, it's a long process to get a project from concept to contract, about 8 years. So we invite the city along on our inspections and our processes. So they're involved throughout that process and the development. They're also invited to the public meetings as well. The question is the meetings that we hold with the city and with the public prior to decisions being made or after? Usually when we start up a public meeting, we'll have some design started on it, just so we have an idea what it could look like. You know, this could look like this or that, or any number of things. Other projects we'll do planning studies. So planning studies are more conceptual. I think we've recently done one in Yankton County. There was a planning study, countywide planning study done in Yankton County. I'm looking at Steve, he works on a lot of our planning studies. So those are just very, very high level for community master plans as well. So there's kind of different levels of how those can take place.
So how do we get that community to discuss the city council?
Okay, the follow-up question is how can we get the city council to have a meeting with us regarding this? And I think we provided some information to the city of Wagner right now. They have that information. If they are requesting us to come and visit, we'd definitely be willing to do that.
Which is. Full fence. But you're right. There's not a lot of businesses growing that. And, you know, I can see. If you, sidewalk on one side. Case block. You know, to me, it makes sense you could keep. Especially if you want to talk. I also want. Stretch your mind. Level two situation. School. Because a lot of people are sitting at home. You could use that for puzzles. That would save a lot of money for the tax. Also, options just don't work. Every teacher or student. Share. Real affordable system.
Thank you. And the comment was, again, relating to some lane configuration options and sidewalk configuration for those of you following online. And also consideration of a level 2 type charger. And maybe just a little bit on different charging. For those of you that aren't familiar, there's a level 1, which is essentially plugging into an outlet wall and plugging your electric vehicle in. A level 2 would be like using, if you have an electric dryer, using that outlet to plug in your electric vehicle. And the focus of the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act is on a DC fast charge. So that would actually be looking at 150 kilowatt per outlet for a total of 600 kilowatt output. So that's like a big old fire hose, really of power coming your way. So those are really intended for a quicker charge. So those folks that have electric vehicle, they can anticipate 20 to 30 minutes to charge their vehicle. They pay a fee to use that facility, of course, to the owner of it. But again, that's the focus for the IIJA. There are several level 2 DC fast or level 2 chargers in the state right now. I think there's around 59 chargers overall. Good chunk of those are level 2. And those are things that can be put in office buildings or other locations as well. It takes a little longer to charge depending on your vehicle, but definitely something that's being deployed. Thank you.
I would be remiss in the memory of contact senior or flat. In his tradition, he started 30 years ago. I will buy coffee and ice cream. I will stimulate the profit and ice cream and buy and press out. But Joel, you're welcome to come. She's like, but happy hour ice cream.
Thank you. Thank you. And the comment was appreciation for the work and everybody showing up here tonight and wanted to make sure that opportunity to maybe have a little coffee and ice cream at a location is available. I don't want to promote anything over others, but thank you. Anyone else here tonight? Anyone online? Do we have anything online? Any questions that came in? Anyone else here tonight? We'll do a quick count here in the room and then we got a quick count going. Well, I think we got one.
Yeah.
Got 14 on Zoom and 16 on Facebook.
So it sounds to me like about 30 in the two different platforms we got. And we're stretching our technical skills, but our team is doing an awesome job. Thank you, Taylor, on this. We're going to Zoom and Facebook Live at the same time along with this. So never thought we'd be able to do that, but we have folks like Taylor that do a great job for us. Well, I'm not seeing anybody with any more comments tonight. Our comments will be provided to our Transportation Commission, and the work and the comments you provided allows us an opportunity to go back and do some work on it as well. So thank you so much for coming. I'd be remiss if I didn't say one fatality is too many. On your way home tonight, make sure you buckle up, put your phone in the glove box, talk to your friends, your neighbors about the same thing. It's not just you that's on the road. My family goes on those same roads. So if your phone's in the glove box, I get a better chance to get where I'm going with my kids. So with that, thank you everybody for coming here tonight. Thank you for getting engaged in transportation. Have a great and safe trip home.